to be fair, the bans are kind of like a double ban. It protects Tide, but also I think Io Razor has a really high win rate. The heroes have been like first phase together like a few times because it's like really strong and it would have a lot of impact. Luna also is an Io pairing, so they're just like taking 2 out there, which I think is good.
As well as Luna's been picked quite a few times by T1 already in SEA DPC, so it's like taking that comfort away as well.
Yeah, Luna's just kind of being picked a lot. And Neon taking Batrider here, which is cool. Mamang Daya has been playing it, like I said, with Kunkka, Puck, Bat, her is 3 like most recently played mids quite a lot, so I think we'll definitely see on him. And Tree is, oof, I know T1 love Tree, and Tree's been getting picked up a bit more lately in this meta, but not usually this late. That's a pretty... It's okay. I like it. I don't love it, but I don't think it's gonna be like game changing for OB.Neon.
You think like what would have been a better pick for them? Do you feel?
That's a big question.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of heroes, right? You can name almost anything out there that you feel could have been.
Yeah, I feel like they maybe feel like the laning stage can go well against the Mars just because he's someone who can actually like kind of hold his ground and right click the Mars a bit, maybe win the harass trade even into the IO. So we'll have to wait and see, but. Perhaps, yeah, they just think this tree and +1 can have a good safe lane.
Yeah, I think the only downside with the tree Mars is that Mars's ult gets rid of all the trees, right? And then you're Treon trying to walk around the map and you're like, okay, there's just no trees in this area at all anymore. That's just a no-go zone.
That's okay, you're not too worried about that. I mean, I'm right now liking T1's draft a lot more. Just in the, like, they haven't even picked their, like, pairing with Io yet. They can put, Mars with it if they want, like run it as a 4, but like ideally what you want to do is have setup and then Io comes in with relocate with like another hero. That's usually not your Queen of Pain. Your Queen of Pain's usually like playing between like 2 lanes, and then like so Mars arenas, and then Cop's like in the nearby area and shows up to it, and then Io brings in like a carry and they like get that kill and like take an objective off of it. So I think that's the hero that T1 are looking for now. But their like lineup looks really, really easy to execute. Like Ogre's gonna buff up whatever carry is last picked. Io's gonna do the same thing. Like they're gonna run with this 23 Savage carry, and 23 Savage is a good carry player. Like
yeah, it really is open. Like if they want to go for like some slower game with like the Medusa or anti-mage type games, definitely possible. Or they can pick something more tempo, fast-paced, play with the Io if they want. So very open for T1, and I feel like what they've done well with this draft is like using that last pick. It feels like they set themselves up to actually get a really good last pick of the draft. Often it gets to this last pick and teams feel like they've been put into a corner where there's no amazing pick left, or all the good picks are banned, partly because they banned all these kind of Tide counters. Suddenly this hero pool is really wide open, it feels like, for T1 with this last pick, even though 4 carriers got banned at the end.
Well, while we're waiting for this T1 last pick, let's talk about some Morphling that OB.Neon picked up. Thoughts? Anything?
It's okay. I think it has the potential to die though a lot.
Yeah, it could be tough. Like there's that kind of burst factor from a Mars. I think the idea is there's the anti-mage. You're getting a hero that isn't this range. Like it is range, but it's not going to be completely ruined by Mars's his bulwark. You've got the E-Blade build if you want to go that. You can also just ignore the Mars, get on top of the IO. To me, I see this IO and I'm like, how are they going to kill this IO? And I think Morphling is kind of the answer to that, where it can jump on the back lines, has some burst damage potential, and is also kind of a Palace. It's a hero he loves to play. I've seen his Dota buff. He plays this a lot in pubs. He's very familiar with Morphling, although no obvious synergy where it's like, oh, it's going to be a Morph Willow or Morph Shaker when it comes to using his ultimate this game.
Some closing thoughts. Which team do you guys favor to take this game number 2?
I think T1's lanes look pretty good. I think the execution looks really easy. I think this anti-mage, another mobile hero, means that Zephyr can just play with Cuckoo and really enable him this game. I think like Neon relies too much on Mamang Daya to like destroy the game, and I think Carl's Queen of Pain is very good, so it's hard.
Yeah, it's like 2 games in a row Carl's getting this mid lane hero advantage, I feel like, in the matchup. So I know the players, the captains, in their interviews in the matchup video talking about like, oh, I know we're going to see this exciting mid matchup, but Carl both times being set up to really come out on top. And also, I'd say 23 Savage setting up to have a great game. This is a dream anti-mage game to me. I don't think the hero is the best, but there's a game for it. This looks to be the one.
Yeah, I think Hustler gotta like come mid and help him a lot. Like on that.
Well, we'll see if this is going to end up being another 2-game series, or if we are going to get a 3rd game. I'm going to hand you guys over to MLP and John for game number 2.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're in for our 2nd game between T1 and OB.Neon, and it is MLP and JohnXFire once again. John, 2 brand new drafts ahead of us. Game number 1, I mean, we can't sugarcoat it. It wasn't even close. Game number 2, though, John, do you have faith in OB.Neon that they might be able to take this one off T1?
I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that. I feel like T1 has come out with a really strong combination in their opening. You know, going for the Mars IO is really sick. They go for the AM pick as well. So they've got something very special for Savage. We haven't seen him play with that in a very long time. Keen to see how much he brings out. Maybe the lane matchups are a bit better, to be fair. Like, you've got Tide into AM. Amelie Hero into AM is always Amelie Hero into Tide is always good for the Tide, so you can kind of zone him out. You've got good protection for your Morphling here on OB.Neon's end with the Treant to heal him up, and much stronger control with your line and Treant along with the Lancer to play with. So you've got a lot you can bring out, but I still feel like T1's got the better draft. It's just so confident when they come out with an AM last pick that completely shuts down a Morph if it does manage to gap close. You just have a lot to bring there.
Unfortunate news, Jonathan. We did have a pause going, but it looks like we are going to unpause very soon. But before we do unpause, how was Christmas, Jonathan? I didn't get to ask you. I know you're very big on Christmas. In fact, hold that thought, because there's a bit of all chat going on now. Pressure is the word that was used.
Yeah, there was a lot of all chat. I couldn't even see. And Carl now saying, Bang, don't pressure. You know, these two are very good friends. Of course, you've got to be when you lay shade like that. They're very close friends, apparently. So it's all in good spirits, but you gotta love to see it and see. Look at this rundown on the lanes, though. They're just going down bot. What is this?
It's SEA, Jonathan. It's SEA. It's T1. They're giving OB.Neon the welcome back home. It's a 4v4 situation down at this bot lane right now. We'll see if they run into each other. It seems as though they both are very well aware, thanks to those observer wards. Yeah. Just who strikes first? Cuckoo, he's going to run in. Enryu, he might be the target, but no, they want somebody else. Ignites are out. And now both teams realize they were under vision the whole time.
Yeah, they did manage to get the D ward on Neon's end, so they're going to be a bit happier taking that vision away. And they managed to drop this nice deep ward on mid already. So they've got a good watching point to protect Mom and Daya. T1 might not be prepared to get that D ward off, but they're still staying clumped up. You know, they're still looking to force something out, maybe just going for the runes safely now. And good to see from both sides. We know Neon loves to be aggressive, then T1 can also be really aggressive early on, as we've heard Cuckoo say. They can shift gears very fast. So just looking for that opportunity. Doesn't come out. They will go even in the bounties here, Mike.
But they will. A decent start for both teams thus far. I mean, I suppose we may as well start with that bottom lane. You will see that Io making his way over, of course. Zephyr going to be there along with Cuckoo. And this combination's pretty hard to go up against. I mean, this Mars Io never really dies. You've got constant mana regen coming in for Cuckoo now as well on that Mars. Of course, they are going to be up against a Beng's Treant, so that could be a pretty tough time, along with Palos' Morphling. But I dare say T1, at least in this offlane, should be just fine.
Yeah, I think they've got a lot to play with. Level 2 Spike is pretty strong. Once Zephyr has a point in the overcharge, Cuckoo runs up, overcharge up. More damage on the God's Rebuke, more damage on the Spear, and can try to pin down Palos or a Bang if they get too close. A Bang kind of has the same issue as he did in Game 1. He has to gap close to get hits off. He can't really do that all too well. His tree lane was cut on the left side, so he has to play on the right side, but Cuckoo and Zephyr tend to stay away from there. So it's really hard to apply that early right-click damage that the Treant does have to kind of win the lane out.
It kind of goes the same way, though, up at top lane, where you saw Savage. He was getting very low on that anti-mage, and it's not the easiest lane in the world for an anti-mage to farm in. Against the Tide Hunter, sure, you can drain his mana, but he's going to get to that point where he does have that soul ring up, and well, then you're just not really able to pressure him out too much. Though, as I say that, Whitemon makes the jump in with the Ignite. Body blocks are there, but Savage can't really get too much damage out with all the mana being missing now from Enryu. Of course, Narman is there to make sure he does remain alive.
Yeah, it's still a really decent time for Savage. I think in comparison, it's a little bit more manageable for the AM. A lot more hanks here on Norman to get the zoning off. He really has to work out who he stuns, who he drains down, and he's in a bit of danger now as well.
That he is. Narman almost dropping, but Savage doesn't have the blink off cooldown, so won't be able to go too much further. Of course, we should have a look at that last lane we really haven't talked about quite yet, which is the mid lane, Jonathan. Mamang Dyer, of course, last game around had a very, very tough time. This time on the Batrider, I'd imagine he should have at least a bit more of an even laning stage against Carl, but even now, Carl is still 3 CS ahead, and it doesn't feel like the Batrider pressure is really being applied at all.
No, it's just not coming out, and Carl has a lot of ways to play that lane. He has opted to go for the Shadow Strike Blink build here, Mike. So he's got sustain with the Shadow Strike coming in. Not the best sustain, but still some good harassment back onto Mamang Daya and a great slow as well. And he's got the Blink to just bail out if Mamang Daya goes for a dive. So you're really not applying that lane dominance you want on the bat. That does force the early TP back from Narman to get the bottle top up. And the Water Rune will be sniped away by Whitemon, but at least Mamang Daya still has a little bit more to play with. It is worrying to see the Batrider off to a slow start like this. He can flash farm pretty well in the jungle, but we saw that in game 1 where Mamang Daya had to play the jungle early on as well. It's just not great when you have to share farm with your other cores as well.
Certainly isn't. We'll see what he gets done about it. I mean, even for now, Carl 1 level ahead already on that quap. That's going to be problematic. Now, every lane pretty quiet thus far from these two sides. I mean, it feels like the most action-packed lane has been the top lane, but or even then, we have yet to see a kill flying out. Savage, he does continue to get harassed out quite effectively here by Narman and Inryu, but ultimately is able to still stick around and hit creeps. In fact, he's hitting creeps better than old Palos right now on that Morphling, who's just having a very tough time against Cuckoo.
Yeah, it's going to be slow going for Palos if he doesn't find that initial laning farm, because when it comes down to jungle, the AM without Battle Fury is a bit slow. He does have Blink, and it's much easier for him to jump camp to camp, clearing out these neutrals a lot faster than the Morphling. You do have some ways of doing that with Palos as well, but once a Battle Fury is up, that really skews towards the AM. The farming pace of the Morphling isn't as quick as that, and that's something you have to really be worried about from Neon's end. You have to ensure Palos goes off to a good start, but he's already been left alone in lane. He's just kind of standing solo. Obbing's been dipping out, trying to get some forward vision, maybe cutting off some stacks, of spotting out if there's any attempts there. But as long as he's not in lane, as long as he's not dealing the right-click damage to zone out Cuckoo and Zephyr, they'll always be happy to run up to Palos and drop him down to low HP.
But they will. Cuckoo even just going after a bang, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, John, but this Treant is not having the impact that you would hope it would have throughout this lane whatsoever. Just, he can't get anything down with this, anything done with this Mars IO combo. It's just too much heal, too much sustain. Back mid lane now, even Mamang Daya dropping low on the Batrider, so that mid lane, you know, regardless of hero matchups, John, Daya, he's not having a good time.
No, it's definitely not. And it's all down to Carl going for the Shadow Strike, though. He goes 3 points in Shadow Strike, just 1 value point in the Scream and in the Blink. He doesn't need to clear out the creep wave that fast. He just needs to put Mamang Daya away. So he just focuses in on zoning out Daya, making sure the Batrider doesn't farm up. And we heard a little bit of that in the interview. There's a lot of emphasis on the mid, especially on Mamang Daya. He seemed to realize that T1 really tries to enable Carl and kind of shut down the opposing mid. Mamang Daya is experiencing that now. He doesn't have his small camp to play with. He doesn't have any sort of recovery lined up for him yet, and he's still a level behind Carl, as you mentioned. So Carl has a lot that he could do here, and just keeping Batrider in check means that you're lacking that lasso play down the line, you're lacking that early travels timing to make those plays happen. And as those timings go further and further, it becomes harder for Mamang Daya to, again, just be the menace he needs to be by the mid-game.
Yeah, I mean, Carl's level 6 now as well, so you've got to be very worried about that Sonic Wave flying out. In fact, he could make the jump in right now. Haste Rune is going to be picked up by Narman. He might be just fine to get himself out. So he will avoid dying to Carl for first blood. And speaking of, John, we are still yet to see a kill come out from either side.
Yeah, it's been a much more stable game from both sides. Lots of emphasis on just farming up, although down mid, Daya
Oh,
could be
never
amazing.
mind. Yeah, he's getting dived right now, but looks like he's going to be just fine with the Firefly. Suppose you do at least force out the rotation there from a bang. He doesn't really want to be here right now on the Treant. But he'll stick around for a little bit. Just make sure Mamang Daya does remain safe and even salves him up. Thing is, though, Carl, he's still just completely dominated this lane. They are going to spot out Whitemon on the Ogre, but there's not really much they can do about him. He's a pretty tanky support to deal with.
Yeah, it's really hard to burst down with what you have on hand right now on Neon's end. And while they're all there, it frees up the side lane. So Cuckoo can apply even more harassment onto Palos. Sure, Palos can receive the healing from the Treant globally, but you're really not doing anything to stop that Mars from hitting its timings. And Cuckoo is number 2 in net worth. That does open up Enryu's farm up top. He's had a bit of a better time in this game up against Savage, keeping that AM in heavy check. But again, Savage is still having better time than Palos as well. So the AM still set off for a really good ride into Battle Fury and just farm from there.
Oh, another pool deny from White. I mean, Whitemon's just so good at just denying these large camp pulls away from OB.Neon. He's done it again, and I thought he wouldn't make it in time, but he just uses the Ignite. Nama not around to try and stop him. I mean, you kind of pointed it out anyway. I mean, Enryu's having a great enough time as it is, but they want to deny as much farm away from Savage as they possibly can, and... Oh, Savage! He uses the mana void to get CS there. I mean, why the hell not, I guess?
Yeah, I think he realizes there's no one to really blow up with that spell early on. Like, no one has any massive mana pool, so the kill possibilities for the AM isn't really that big. Might as well just secure CS while you can in tough lane. They are trying to make moves onto mid once more, though.
Fire Blast is going to land. Carl, he'll jump in, but won't bother with the Sonic Wave. Only a level 2 Scream, so the damage isn't too high. He's very reliant on having that Shadow Poison out earlier. Mamangdaya, while the pressure has been applied, he is still just fine. Still farming up, trying to keep up with Carl. Or they might even start looking to make rotations up top lane, where Savage is already about half HP. In fact, he does blink in to Enryu, but nobody around to really back up this tide. You've got the levels there for Ravage, but he hasn't skilled it up either, so you haven't got that big lockdown. It does seem like Mamangdaya and the Batrider, whether he has lasso or not. In fact, never mind, he's going to try and go after Carl, but he's dropping low. They'll get the lasso off in time. Carl, he's going to be the one to drop, as the heal was enough from Mamangdaya and a bang. Great little play there from our Batrider.
Yep, and nice first blood for Neon. 9 minutes in, Mike. One of the latest first bloods we've seen from anything in Southeast Asia. So took a while, does come out for OB.Neon, and that's one thing when you do go into that Shadow Strike build. When you've got an opposing Treant who does go for the living armor, he will kind of offset that DOT. So the damage potential for the Quap isn't quite there, as you mentioned earlier on, Mike, and that does give Neon a little bit more to play with. So a little bit more breathing room, some recovery out from Mamangdaya. Still needs to work towards his travels, but it does feel like he's finding more.
Yeah, he's going to find another kill here onto Whitemon, it seems, as they do hand it over to the Batrider. And, well, it's like you just said, John. With the tough start he's had, you want to give him every kill he can get. The bot lane, Palos, well, he was getting chased down there by Cuckoo, but they were unable to find an angle for the spears. So Palos, he's going to be just fine to walk away and just hit up the jungle. But they still do posture aggressively. Here's Zephyr. He'll scout out, but now he's going to be surrounded as a Beng does show up. But he has the tether. Palos still trying to move forward, but Carl's going to show up now. Zephyr's still alive. Palos, he has got nothing left in the tank. He has to leave the area. Strength Walk is going to be there. He'll try to TP in time, but he's not going to make it. Oh, that's a great little bait out from Zephyr. They could not get the damage out in time.
Yeah, great plays coming out. They do manage to find the bigger kill, slowing that Morphling once more. I mean, compared to movements out of Palos and Savage. Savage is already in that jungle. He's just playing the jungle, not even bothering with the lane. He knows the tide's just skilled up to shut him down, so he's just working towards that Battle Fury. There's no vision here from Neon to spot him out. He's completely safe and is just going to have that early Battle Fury skipping the boots. So the farm is going to escalate. Whereas for Palos, he's still trying to play the lane. He needs backup from his supports. His jungle is warded up deeply here from T1. It just makes it hard to find space for the Morphling.
Whitemon gets a nice deny off, but it is going to end up dropping to Narman, and that'll be the first finger snack going out to the Lion now. It's not too bad here for OB.Neon. I'm sure they won't mind that T1 tower gold too much. Still, bot lane is also going down slowly to Cuckoo, but the rotations are going to come out now. Enryu and Mamangdaya both showing up to try and get themselves a kill onto this Mars, but Cuckoo, he does back off at the right moment. I suppose you've always got Zephyr there with the relocate if you need him to. So I suppose they could still get caught out as they are sticking around in that jungle. Looks like they're going to be just fine as... Well, Enryu, he's already walked off. Beng has as well, and well, Mamangdaya, he's not sticking around either.
Yep, they're just kind of getting what farm they can on T1. They know they're Cuckoo's probably the hardest target to jump right now. The side of Neon is still trying to work the map, but they're walking under vision from T1. G's wards to protect are great. They are trying to steal a
Rain it
stack.
down. Yeah, Spear will go right through the creep wave, however, so Cuckoo, he does get a lot of the small creeps. Arena was committed to that, though, and now the Ravage comes out. Enryu not playing any games, but Zephyr gets him out of the lasso. Oh, no, the lasso onto the Ancient Cap. Carl, he's going to chase him down now. More punishment to come the way of Mamangdaya. Just leave this Batrider alone. In fact, Carl, he might be in trouble now. Narman's locked him down, but the Sonic Wave going right through the Batrider, forcing the TP out. He'll make it just in the nick of time, but I cannot say the same for Enryu. He'll be chased down to the ends of the earth, or maybe not. Just a bit too tanky. They'll leave the tide be. And so all things being said and done, a couple ultis missed there, John, but nobody ends up dropping.
Yeah, you could argue that's a win for Neon. They do manage to clear out some of the stacks. They clear out most of it. They force out the arena, and they force the early relocate, so they know they don't have to worry about that. But for T1, the big win there is that Savage is not being pressured. That entire movement out was on the opposite side of where Savage was farming. Neon was moving under the obs ward of T1. So your AM is still going to hit that Battle Fury timing. They do send Enryu to the top jungle now. And Savage is going to have to be a little bit more careful, but there's no threat of Ravage. So your AIM's perfectly happy trading hits like this. Only about 120 gold away from the full Battle Fury. And it's after that point where you do have to start thinking about that core-to-core matchup. Palos has his triangle in control, but farm-wise, it just feels like the AIM's going to escalate a lot faster.
I love the mana voids from Savage. I mean, it looks really silly, but he did just steal that large creep away from Enryu. And considering the AM is going to be farming for the next 2 years, you may as well just use the mana void to steal creeps away.
Yeah, you're not going to be joining fights, and again, there's no one to really blow up with a mana void here. You just kind of want to use it when you can to farm, speed up your farming pace, and kind of work with that tag game that Enemy's trying to play. Oh.
Well, they found a bang eventually. The arena wasn't quite enough to trap him in, but a nice route out. No, he's trapped. The creep wave, even going against the tree, and a bang could not find an exit. And that tier 1 bot tower should be as good as gone now.
And that should open up a little bit more space for T1 to play aggressively if they want to. That is heavily warded out from Neon. They are TPing in to defend, though.
They are Mamangdaya. He has the lasso up, and this time around he won't miss Zephyr. He will pick it up. They do miss the Earth Spike, but it won't matter in the end as they have the finger. Nama will take his second stack of finger kills, but here comes Carl. Now with the Orca down into the Sonic Wave. They've got the Batrider, but do they have enough? Yeah, you bet your ass they do. Onto Narman they go. They'd love another kill, and it looks like Carl will take it. A double for the Queen of Pain. And this is when things get a little bit spicy here for T1 as you've got the Orchid available. Carl, I imagine, will continue to rotate now.
Yeah, he's ready to go. He's got some damage amp going for him. They can play around with the relocate possibilities now with Zephyr as well. So you've got a couple of ways to follow through from the Pop's mobility or from the IO's mobility there with a +1. And can start working this map out. I think for Neon, they're doing the same thing as T1 is. They are still buying space out for Palos. Your Morphling is still playing the triangle, really well protected. No forward vision there from T1 to scout out the AM, to scout out the Morphling. But again, when it just comes down to it, it feels like the Morphling's going to need way more than the AM to kind of keep up there. He's going to be the prime target for the Mana Void. Once Morphling's out of mana as well, he can't attribute shift as he once has. I think for Neon right now, they need to try to play as aggressively as they can, but their item buildups indicate otherwise. Like, we're seeing Enryu go for this Desolator buildup, Mike, so he's focusing in on damage, maybe looking to play the slower game. They are going to go for a smoke, and he does have his blink up, so they have a Ravage to play with if they want to.
Oh, here we go. Orchid out. There's the arena down with the spear out. They've got the Morphling. Great play onto Palos, and well, the rest of the team were smoked up, but they'll go for the Ravage onto Carl. They'll try to blow up the Queen of Pain, but they have the damage. They'll root him up. He's hexed up as well. They finally get him down, but what's it going to cost the side of OB.Neon for that Queen of Pain kill? They'll get one Treant down, relocate out onto the high ground, onto Narman, but they might lose Whitemon on that Ogre. Narman's gone to boot, and Ryu and Mamangdaya now showing up. Lasso available to try and take down Cuckoo on this Mars, but relocates back out from Zephyr, back the other way, trying to break the ankles of Mamangdaya, but it's not going to be enough. Cuckoo's been caught out. Firefly's still there. He'll try for the TP, but it's within the Firefly. Nice rotation in from Mamangdaya, And it does end up working out in the favor of OB.Neon.
Yeah, it's a 3-for-3 trade in the end. You're sacrificing your Morphling to kill off the Quap. It's a trade you'll take for Neon, because again, they were the ones smoked up, they were the ones looking to be aggressive. Maybe a bit of a misplay in having Palos take that mid farm. But overall, I think if you're T1, you're still not too upset. Sure, you lose Carl, but that's his job right now. It's his job to be aggressive along with Cuckoo. It's their time to make space for Savage. And as long as your AM's still farming up a lot faster than the Morphling, you're still happy with the situation. So, big issue there for Neon is the fact that Palos got caught out while the smoke was happening. Like, he wasn't playing near the smoke area at all. His entire team was breaking off to the lower side while he was holding mid. I think if Palos just lived through and they found a 2-for-3 trade, then Neon would definitely be the winner there. But because of that, I think T1 will take that trade happily, keep building up in Savage. They are starting to keep track of that AM's movement. Good forward wards from Obbing and good scouting out starting to come through here. But just no follow-through. They know there's no Ravage anymore and no Lasso for a while longer. Savage is just perfectly fine kind of blinking around and playing tag here.
I suppose now that you've got the Blink Dagger up on Narman, though, with the Lion, you could just Blink Hex this AM and probably have enough control to take him down. They are staring down Savage right now. In fact, to Savage, he'll just blink away. But I do believe with that blink reveal now on Narman, you probably want to go for a smoke up and try to chase down Savage. I mean, you know where he is. Problem is T1, they've got the idea first. They run in with Cuckoo, but Enryu does back off at the right time. Sensing something was awry, he will just blink towards the south, and he does make it out.
Yeah, very well timed blink, knowing that Savage was posturing forward. Managed to catch the end of that, so he knew someone's going to come in to follow up. Immediately bails out. Lost opportunity for T1. They just go back to farming. Cuckoo finds the ancient stacks for himself, and that is going to lead to a very fast BKB here for the Mars. Once you've got that BKB, it becomes harder for OB.Neon to pull these fights off. They might have to target the lasso onto him every time to ensure the Mars won't get off the arena, get off the spear. Neon will go for a smoke play though, again, playing up top, trying to hunt Savage. Is a bit far from the jungle, but they could still catch him out if they manage to get the good run in.
Well, they're going to try. They need that blink initiation. They've got it. The Hex is there. Counterspell not out in time. They might need the lasso too, but it'll be worth it. As Zephyr tries to relocate him out, but he was a half a second too late. And now it should just be a nice, easy secondary IO kill. I mean, Cuckoo, he'll stick around. Try to allow the tether target, and, well, that's going to be enough. Zephyr, he's out of there. But you got the main target in Savage.
Yeah, and that's what we needed to see from Neon from the past few minutes. To get the big kill they need, they're buying more space out for Palos to try to build a lead up. Palos manages to overtake in net worth as well. So it's starting to be a good game here for the side of Neon. They're playing well with the blink initiation they do have. The side of T1 is starting to take it a bit slow, even though they've had that timing on Carl, they've had this timing on Cuckoo. Perhaps with the BKB up on Cuckoo, they feel a lot more confident going forward now.
Cuckoo's just running up high ground with no vision. Takes the regen rune and just walks away. Not like he had a bottle or anything, just making sure that it doesn't go the way of Momang Daya. Speaking of OB.Neon, 8-7 right now. Net worth lead pretty much non-existent. Just very, very slightly in the favor of T1. But do you favor the AM versus the Morphling in this matchup, John, if we do hit the late game? Or is there other factors we need to be looking out for once we get to that late game stage?
It's a back and forth one by late game. I think the Morphling has ways to play it, but I think an AM should easily just, again, take out the conditions of a Morphling. Just constantly burn the mana off, prevent that attribute shift from being a factor. If they do burn all of his mana off, like, the Morphling's not that tanky. I think what the issue will lie on is the team fight aspect of Neon. They've got Overgrowth, they've got Ravage.
Top lane!
Savage?
Yeah, they've got Savage, John. They've done it again, Narman. Able to blink Hex him up, and Palos gets the job done, and I suppose that's one thing that Savage will constantly have to be worried about, is where Narman is.
Yeah, it's the big factor. Like, that blink initiation from the line just enables them to find that kill. I think T1's got to do a bit more on the map to be aggressive here to buy that space.
Mid lane, Kraken Shot just going to take off the spear, and now a Ravage out, landing on 4 heroes. Palos, he's going to go right after Carl. Overgrowth is there. They've locked him down. Carl, he's going to drop first. Now Cuckoo with the lasso out. They lock him down, but can they take him out? Cuckoo is still in trouble. Relocate is there though, Zephyr. He'll save the day, but now Whitemon, he's been left behind. Narman will get the Earth Spike off, but there's no follow-up to it. They just want that T1 mid tower. but T1 refused to let it go down. In fact, they'll chase Narman back down. The flame break should be enough to force them back, and it does.
Yeah, we're starting to see that fight come out from Neon. I think the issue for T1 right now is that they're not the ones making space on the map anymore. They're not the ones being aggressive, and that does leave openings for Neon to clump up, to hunt down the AM. There's a smoke here on Mamang Daya. They're looking to go onto Savage again. He does manage to blink out in time, but just these kinds of movements are enabled by the fact that T1's not forcing anything on the map. You know, they're not grouping up, they're not forcing heroes to rotate in, to put their bodies forward for these fights, as we saw early in the game. And that just means that there's more opportunities for Neon to hunt down Savage. And they've been doing a great job of that. They've really enabled Palos. He's climbed up to #1 in net worth now, Mike, going onto his Scotty. So our Morphling's still going to be big despite that slower start, and that's something to worry about here.
Mid lane, they've got the Orchid out on the Tide, but it's not going to amount to much. Enryu is still very, very tanky, and I do love the build up into the Deso. Always makes me very happy. So they want that mid-tier 1 tower. And OB.Neon, they have not backed off. In fact, they blink right in onto Carl again, and they just blow him up. Whitemon, he's going to try and run his way out of there. Cuckoo, he'll jump in. Arena's out, but Mamang Daya, he had the BKB in time, so they'll just keep turning back the way of T1. The fight continues, though. Cuckoo, he's a very, very tanky boy, but not tanky enough to go up against the whole side of OB.Neon, or is he? He's still trying. A bang, he can't get the overgrowth in time. They'll blow him up. Onto the Mars they go, but the relocate is there. Zephyr will buy time and a reset for Cuckoo. As now Narman's in trouble. Savage looking for a bit of revenge, but Palos won't leave him be. In fact, no, the stun is out. Palos, he's out of mana. They take Narman down. Palos now, he just needs to run. They will try to help him out with Enryu. Getting Whitemon with the gush. Cuckoo back in with the spear out. That'll allow Savage to get a triple kill onto that anti-mage. Can he find a little bit more? It looks like he wants Mamang Daya, and he'll try chasing him down. But in the end, we'll leave him be. And although it was a very messy engagement, it does favor the side of T1.
Yeah, it does end up going their way. Very even breakout there from both sides. Neon does find that mid-tier 1, so they do find the objective they want in the end, and that should open up even more aggression from Neon if they want to. There are some key timings here from T1 that should be a cause of concern for Neon. Look at Savage, Mike. He's going for the Ags build. He's going to have that Blink Fragment AM just sending out the illusions, burning down the Morphling's mana. We saw it from Palos. He lost all of his mana very early on. Wasn't able to really go all in on the strength to sustain himself. And that's going to be a constant factor for him now as this game scales on. Like Savage, once that Ags is up on her AM, he's just always going to send that out to ensure that either the Morphling feels unsafe, or say the Tide doesn't get the mana to use Ravage, or keeping Trina down, or just keeping Mamang Daya in check. It's going to be a big nuisance for the side of Neon. They do have some ways to mitigate that, and they've got the line around to kind of burst at least the Manta illusions. I'm trying to remember if the Ag Shard illusions are hard. Although,
Enryu, he's caught in that arena. Spear already committed, but it won't matter. Enryu, he's gone. Nice setup there from T1, and now they might be able to finally trade that mid-tier 1 tower. It's very important to open up the map for either side. They will fortify, and they'll keep trying to protect, and it's one of those things when you have a Treant Protector, you really want to hold onto these towers as long as possible. They've already held on for 25, but it seems like they're not done holding on yet, as they do all rotate. And they are committed to ensuring this T1 just never drops.
Yeah. They know they've got to hold on to that to keep that aggressive movement out. They need that focal point for them to kind of launch their movements from and prevent T1 from rotating onto them. Like their triangle's very protected because of that. The Roshan's very hard for T1 to go into because of that mid-tier 1. OB.Neon will smoke up, and T1 didn't have vision to spot that out, so they've got to be a bit careful here.
They do, Carl. We've seen him go down before if Narman can get the jump in, but he cannot. Carl backing off at the right moment. Even popping the Essence Ring as he sensed something was a little bit wrong there at the top lane. Speaking of wrong, Cuckoo, he's going to find a double damage rune. Bang, going to be unable to deny it off him. And T1 will see if they can make something happen with this. In fact, they will. 5-man smoke up. If you get a good team fight here, you might just be able to take Roshan as T1. The 5k net worth advantage in Cuckoo, he could blink in right now, but he doesn't have the vision. Instead, where do you go? Do you try for Roshan? Do you go back for the mid-tier 1 tower? It does seem like without that mid-tier 1 dropping, they are not going to try for Rosh.
Yeah, it's too risky. There's way too much counterplay from Neon with Ravage and Overgrowth and the Lasso coming through here. They've got the blink up on Mamang Daya as well. So it's very easy for them to contest that Roshan if they haven't even an inkling that it's happening. That does mean T1's going to have to play more conservatively. They are starting to work the map a lot more efficiently though, Mike. 5k lead coming out from T1. So that gold advantage you want from the AM is starting to pile on, although...
Oh, Bang, he's going to blink out in time. Palos within safety's range, so he'll just keep farming up. In fact, Narman will join them, just in case they could find a jump. And the only person showing right now at that top lane is going to be Cuckoo. There's no real jump to make here for Narman, but they'll use Palos as bait, hoping that T1 does take it, and it looks like they're thinking about it. T1 just hanging around the outpost in the Dire jungle, but it does feel like they've read the bait, and they are not going to go for it.
So again, conservative play from both sides. They know they've got... It's pretty even right now and can make it or break. I think both sides understand whoever gets to jump first will probably win out because it's all about initiation, all about letting Narman and Enryu kind of go for the Ravage and Blink Strike plays instantly into the Hex. On the side of T1 as well are relying mainly on Cuckoo to get a good arena off and isolate someone, breaking off that fight. So they're both kind of just holding back. That is giving T1 an opening to push for mid if they want to. OB.Neon are kind of clumped up for the top tier 2, maybe taking that into the outpost going for Roche, although...
Yeah, they found Tide. Henry is going to drop again. He does buy a lot of time for his team, though, to make their way to that tier 2 top tower. And if Palos can finish this off and get the outpost, they'll have first dibs on the Roshan here for OB.Neon, so it's a pretty big win, regardless of losing that Tide. Problem is, though, they have jumped among Taya. BKB may not be able to help him out as Carl's in. And they've got the damage. Never mind what I said, John. Never mind what I said. In fact, it's going to be Roshan now for T1.
They picked the two big heroes that could possibly make a steal there. No Lasso, no Ravage to play with, no instant buybacks as well to force this fight out. The Roche isn't quite the fastest from T1. It'll still go at a steady pace as they've dragged in Savage as well to get this done. So a big objective for T1 to come out. While that mid-tier 1 is standing, they just managed to find the right kills and make it work. Aegis up on Savage. He's got the Ags up as well, Mike, so those blink fragments are going to be flying out. And sure, you could maybe try to mana burn them as the line, you know, try to mana drain or hex him, but those are key spells you kind of need as well for the other illusions coming out. And you definitely want to hold a hex for the real AM, so it can be a bit dicey in using that to clear out these illusion spams coming through from the AM. And just give Savage, again, way more opportunities and way more methods to keep Palos in check. Palos has the Crystallis up, trying to go for the right-click damage build. We'll see if that's a Daedalus or Silver Edge down the line. But it's fairly open for him to go to, and Neon, despite losing that Aegis, will go for a smoke play.
They're going to try. Whitemon, he'll be targeted first. He'll try to make the run out. Enryu, well, he thought about the Ravage, but it probably would not have connected on Savage. That'll be at least one down. And again, John, it does seem like OB.Neon, they are all about protecting this mid-tier 1. In fact, allow me to ask you, John. Give me a prediction. How long does this mid-tier 1 stay standing? In fact, never mind that, because Savage, he's jumped in. He just keeps playing with these illusions. They can't figure out which one the real one is. Ravage is out, but it's doing absolutely nothing for the side of OB.Neon as they're trapped in the arena. They're going to go for the fight, though. Zephyr, he'll be the first to drop it. The Mana Void out. Palos just destroying Narman on that Lion, but they've got Cuckoo down, and Savage, he's going to lose the Aegis. That'll be one life gone as Carl, he may have gone too far to boot. They need to blink their way out of there, and they will. But OB.Neon, they'll be more than happy. In fact, they found Savage again. The secondary life gonna go the way of OB.Neon. And it's just way too greedy of a play here from T1. And that'll mean that mid-tier 2 tower is gonna be open once again for OB.Neon.
Yeah, T1 just going in a bit too deep. They felt a bit stronger than they really were. They've got to respect the damage output of Enryu, especially with that Desolator up with Yanker Smash. You can just melt the AM with this kind of item build. Not much HP going there for Savage, not much stats, so very susceptible to all that.
Oh, Palos! Oh, he barely survives with a slither of HP as Carl. Oh boy, he's gone for 80. They'll leave Whitemon B for now, John, because they've got a tier 3 tower, and I'll tell you what, game 1, it didn't look close, John, but game number 2, T1, they look like they might drop their first game of the SCA DPC.
It's looking that way. They've got one Rax advantage here in Palos.
Yeah, he's in. Whitemon. He's going to end up dropping. Palos now feeling himself. They don't have the Roshan to go back to, and they still have outer towers to deal with. But it's looking like a great game now for OB.Neon.
Yeah, they've managed to set themselves up for success here. It's down to that team fight aspect. When they do manage to get the overgrowth out, when they do manage to get a good Gravage to counter-initiate, it is tough for T1. Their only AoE control really is Arena from Cuckoo, and even their control from their supports aren't great. There's no stuns from your IO, you've got a single target stun in your Ogre, you've got the Orchid from your Quap. It just doesn't compare when the full team fights do break out, and I think Neon understands that. That's why they're so willing to go as 5. They've got the full Daedalus up now as well on Palos, so his right-click damage is going through the roof. And despite trying to play with that Blink Fragment here on Savage, it's just such a massive risk when you blink in like that. He needs a little bit more to really get going there, and he is lagging behind Palos and farm. Neon in a good position to kind of work the map. They've managed to turn that net worth advantage back all the way down to less than 1k. They've got insane farm on Palos. They've been playing really well as a unit. I think T1 needs to be the ones starting to maybe play split push now with the aim. They've got the aim. They can just keep waves shoved out, keep trying to build up, and hit that point where they feel a lot stronger. They will go for a smoke play and maybe force a fight by the tier 2 or go hunting here.
They're going to try Narman around to break the smoke. This could be very awkward for T1, but they do avoid the Lion. Problem is they'll find nobody with this smoke rotation out. And it seems like OB.Neon, they've read the movement at the very least. Is I believe they were under vision when they smoked up. Very deep ward there down to that bot tier 2 tower. I mean, OB.Neon will just walk away scot-free. Just buy more time for Palos, more time for Mamang Daya. Oh, even Enryu's becoming a real problem, John. He's almost at his Satanic now.
Yeah. That right-click tide is pretty much online. It's so hard to burst him down. Just one pop the Satanic, pop the Anchor Smash. He's back to full HP in the middle of the fight.
He'll drop the Arena. So far, Abeng has been left behind, but it won't matter because he just TPs out. Cuckoo will keep going now after Enryu, but that tide is just way too tanky to deal with, especially with the BKB up. T1, they continue to miss out in this game number 2.
Yeah, they're just working the map well now on Neon's end. Just forcing the issue out. They've managed to build a lot of good farm. I think the issue for T1 going forward is going to be a damage issue. Like you pointed out, it's very hard to melt Enryu. You don't really have the best damage coming out from Carl at the moment. You don't have the best damage from Savage as well, especially once mana pools are drained. The AM actually doesn't do that much. T1 will try to go for the smoke play though. They don't have Arena for a little bit longer. They could try to go for a pick-off, but Neon's also kind of clumped up here.
Smoke on smoke situation. Palos, he's going to run into Whitemon. They'll get in there with the Hex onto the Ogre. They'll blow one up first. Nice little support pick off there for OB.Neon as they want more in the Overgrowth. It's going to catch 2. They've got Zephyr down to boot. Can Mamang Daya find another? He's chasing. He might have Cuckoo here, but the BKB is going to be popped to purge off the Orchid as Cuckoo is still trying to run, but the BKB does keep him safe. And the lasso, it was blocked off. Was that a Lincoln's from Carl, John?
Yes, it was. Mamang Daya still tried to force the lasso out and does put it on cooldown, so maybe no aggression from Batrider for a while, but still great movement out from Neon. The smoke and smoke pays off for Neon. T1, again, forcing that smoke out while Arena's on cooldown just doesn't feel like the best situation if you run into 5 heroes, because that is your main AoE control. Whereas for Neon, they've got Overgrowth, they've got Ravage, they've got the Earth Spike from Norman. They have a lot of ways of keeping multiple heroes down. I think that's something T1's just severely lacking. It does feel like they need maybe some sort of AoE control coming out. I don't know what you can really do about that. Like, I don't know how you kind of itemize for that. It just doesn't feel like there's much. Perhaps a Hex up and Carl down the line after the Shivas could help to at least lock one target consistently with your blink in. Beyond that, it's just kind of getting difficult to find those openings. Neon, they are holding the map well. They've got the 3k lead on their side. They've got double damage on Enryu with his physical tie. That is going to be painful when he pops the Anchor Smash. And he's going into the Ag Shard as well. So you're going to have that plus 90 damage on the Smash and affecting buildings. It's going to be really easy to melt the rest of the map here from T1.
Oh, you bet your ass it is, John. It's T1. They've smoked up as 5 heroes again. They're going to have a look around. See if they can find themselves a pick-off. You know, OB.Neon very disciplined right now, not showing on the map. Only top lane being forced in, but T1, they were nowhere near that area. Well, now they are. Mamang Dai, he's gotten a little bit greedy. He's gone back for the next creep wave, and that may just cost him as Cuckoo is having a look around, but no. They don't see him.
They made
do
a bit
they
of a
not see
mistake. They dropped wards, and that was enough for Mamang Dai to back off. Like, they dropped the sentry on that spot. There was a sentry obs, so it immediately told Mamang Dai someone was there under smoke. Just manages to bail out, and they knew something was up. They just back off as well. They didn't see him pop back in a wave. So, missed opportunity once more from T1. Smooth movements out from Neon. There is a Roche they could play for. T1 does have a lot of vision in that area, but again, when it comes to these team fights, it does feel like Neon does have the numbers advantage, a control advantage in a wide area. They are just going to play it safe. I think the idea behind Savage going into that Ags is still great. It's just that when you're up against line, there's just so many ways to clear out those illusions. Like, eventually, if he does get the Ag chart as well, Mana Drain on multiple heroes will kind of take care of multiple Blink Fragments, Manta Illusions as well. So it can be a bit tough to just jump in the back, constantly applying that pressure with the Blink Fragments. They are still clumped up though.
They're going to try onto Enryu, but we've seen this one before. He does not mind frontlining for his team. In fact, he's more than happy to oblige. In fact, Lasso's out. They've got Cuckoo on that Mars. Can they find more? They just want to blow him up first. Zephyr, he couldn't get the relocate out in time. Cuckoo's gone, and now Whitemon, he'll be the second to get caught out. Carl, he'll try to jump in with the Sonic Wave, but it may cost him his own life. He has no blink out. He's trying to rely on the BKB. He finally gets out of there, but the Flame Break does connect. That should be Carl gone. He is still surviving, but not for long. They have got another as they chase down Savage. Oh, Carl, he's been very aggressive with the blinks on this Quap, and they have just not paid off for him.
No, it's a tough situation. He's the big jump. Oh, Cuckoo.
Yeah, he's been caught out as well. He'll drop the arena and just walk out, and that'll be enough for him, but they've got to be very wary not to give any more kills away, as you've committed 2 buybacks from T1. Any more kills, and that might be GG.
It's a precarious situation. Next set of racks being worked on by Neon T1. They will have arena up in a minute. It's going to be a long time because of that defensive drop from Kupi. So the hold is just not looking great. They are spamming out the illusions onto Palos, but it only does so much now. So another set of racks going Neon's way. Pull back, play it safe. They can look for Roshan next if they want to. They've still got Ravage on Enryu ready, and they can just kind of play the objective game. T1 very far behind now, 24-15, 12k lead out for the side of Neon. And once they get this Roche going with a free Ag chart as well, it's going to be even easier to go high ground. Like 2 lives on Palos, you can probably take care of him once. I don't know if they have enough in the tank to take care of him twice over. Heck, even giving that to Enryu is kind of big as well.
Absolutely. Who gets it? It's going to be Palos with the Aegis, and the shards will go the way of Narman, I believe. Fair enough. Things looking very good though. OB.Neon now 14k net worth ahead, and well, John, I do agree with your point. I don't think they can kill Palos twice. It's been a long time since we've seen Palos die once, let alone twice, and it's going to be a very, very tough time here for T1. I think they might be forced to just keep split pushing the map and rely on those creep waves to just keep them in the game. Even then, even with the AM, with the Ags up, it just doesn't seem that easy of a task, because you've always got to be worried about these supports from OB.Neon. He gets hexed up or overgrowth on, and well, that's Savage gone.
Yeah, it's just taken out immediately. It's just down to Neon again. Playing around with Narman's Blink so well early on when they did pick it up. They've just been hunting down Savage. That was the point where T1 was playing it slower. They weren't the ones setting the pace on the map, just giving a lot of openings for Neon to actually clump up and move around because no one was pressuring on the map. And now it's paying off for Neon. Like, they've got the level 25 up and running here on Palos, 2 waveform charges, so he can just kind of jump around a lot easier onto the front line. And they already have the Ag Shard on Enryu. You mentioned the Ag Shard coming out there for Narman. So the illusion spam from Savage is even harder to pull off with all the illusion burn they have with the line up. And it's just really taking a huge chunk of how T1 can play here. Like, they can't even rely on Savage just spamming out Blink Fragments forward because they just immediately get mana drained down and just bursted down by Narman. So you can't even just preemptively burn Palos' mana to ensure he can't shift in a fight, because the illusions just die. Like, you don't have a way of handling the Morphling, so you're forced to try to jump Enryu, but you just don't have the damage to follow through on him instead.
Well, they're going to smoke up again, but T1, they know if they don't win this team fight, it could just be the GG call coming out as OB.Neon. They are very well aware that there is probably a smoke happening. Cuckoo, he's going to jump in, but Lasso's out. Carl, he'll join in as well. They'll try to fight this one out, but the Ravage is there. Enryu's found 3 targets, and they'll go right after Zephyr. They'll still try. Carl, the Sonic Wave, is out chasing down among Dire and the Bat Rider. They'll get one, but there's Enryu just chasing down Cuckoo on the Mars, and they'll get another kill. Savage, what can he really do on this anti-mage? The answer is not much. There's now Whitemon will try to TP out, but he is going absolutely nowhere. 2 heroes left for T1 and OB.Neon. It looks like they might have this one, John. Mega creeps up. Is this the first loss for T1 during this Tour 1 of the SEA DPC? See if they can close it out here. Palos, he'll go for the Tier 4 towers. T1, I mean, high fives flying out. I suppose you've got to do what you can. Not many buttons they have left to press here on the side of T1. There's OB.Neon. They'll keep going for the Tier 4s onto the Ancient now, but no GG calls being made. Henry is right on the front lines, and there's your Ancient. It's all the way down. Cuckoo's called the GG, and OB.Neon, they have managed to take 1 game off T1 and ruin the undefeated streak of this Dire side.
Oh, they make a great comeback in the second game. First game was pretty disastrous for Neon, but they hold out. Game 2, they go back to the Paladus Morphling that he does excel at. They managed to get a lot stronger lanes coming through here, and they managed to shut down Savage. I think that's the big shakeup there compared to that first game. The T1 started to stop the aggression. They found openings on OB.Neon's end to start hunting down the AM, preventing him from getting that build-up. And when Savage did hit those farm spikes, sure, the Ags was a creative idea to deal with a Morphling. It still just instantly gets burned down by Lion. And Narman did a ton of work there. Once the blink came up, jumping in, getting the Hexes off, just made it so hard for Savage to even just sit back and farm. He was just trying to get the build-up he needed there.
Did they even lose that mid-tier 1 tower, John? It feels like that mid-tier 1 still didn't drop. They just held it forever, and I suppose that was the point of the draft, right? Against an anti-mage, you just stop him from split pushing, especially through that mid lane, and you just kind of cut off the draft of T1, and well, I agree with you as well, John. I think Narman just did a fantastic job on that line, just always being a massive threat with that Blink Dagger Hex out. And with that, OB.Neon on to Game 3 here against T1, where this series got very, very exciting all of a sudden, as we are going to head to a very short break, and right after that break, we'll be back with Game number 3 between OB.Neon and T1.